Department. Joining me now, MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin, NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Dilanian, MSNBC legal analyst Barbara McQuade, Washington Post White House reporter Tyler Pager, and our political analyst, Boston Globe columnist Kimberly Atkins Storr, also an attorney. Lisa, a lot of legal developments just in the last hour while the president was speaking. He attacked Jack Smith. He attacked Judge Merchan. He attacked the whole prosecution. He misstated a lot of the facts. But there have been developments, specifically Judge Cannon's ruling. Can you explain also the emergency hearing this hour?
Well, Andrea, let's start with Judge Cannon's ruling. As you noted, Judge Cannon ruled today that she is going to impose a stay on the release of any special counsel report. And according to her order today, that not only applies to the report itself, but also to any information contained in that report. And in both instances, she says Jack Smith, Attorney General Merrick Garland, and Department of Justice employees and agents and those of the special counsel's office are precluded from sharing either the report or any information contained therein beyond the Department of Justice itself. That theoretically means that, for example, when the 11th Circuit decides that they want to have a crack at this, that those actors would be precluded from even sharing with the 11th Circuit itself, the superior decision maker, the information about the report or even a draft report so that they can make a decision here. It's not clear to folks like me, Andrea, whether she has jurisdiction, and that's because earlier this year she threw out the Mar-a-Lago documents case, explaining that from her reasoning, Jack Smith did not have constitutional authority to bring that prosecution under the Appointments Clause of the Constitution. And so there is no basis here to block the report, in part because it's not clear that there's a case or controversy in front of her. But even if there were, the argument that Trump is making that presidential immunity also precludes the release of the report is really a stretch of the Supreme Court's ruling earlier this year. The Supreme Court finding that a president cannot be prosecuted, as you know, for acts having to do with his presidency while he is a sitting president. But here they are trying to say that it has to do with the transition period, and therefore during the transition period he should also be protected, and that he should be protected because this would subject him to some sort of peculiar public opprobrium. You know, Andrea, you and I and others on this network have been discussing the facts at the heart of the Mar-a-Lago documents case since June of 2023, when that indictment was first issued. Based on what Ken's reporting and others, our understanding is that this report wouldn't contain any new information, much less subject the president to opprobrium publicly or force him to expend a great deal of time and energy combating information in the report. So for all of those reasons, it's unclear to me why Judge Cannon has done what she has done. The one final thing that I'll leave you with is that her stay of the release of the report extends beyond any decision by the 11th Circuit. She says that the stay she's imposing will last for 3 days longer. It's unclear to me also why she's done that, but one possibility is that the 11th Circuit doesn't sit again until next week, starting on the 14th of next week and going through the 17th. Could it be that she is trying to impose a stay that would last beyond the time at which Donald Trump is inaugurated? That's one possibility here, Andrea.
No, absolutely. The calendar is there. And right now, the Todd Blanche, the president's defense lawyer, is in the lobby of the appeals court looking over his documents because they are about to appeal the sentencing issue, which was supposed to take place Friday. Barbara McQuade, if you could sort out, being a professor and understanding the appellate situation here, who has jurisdiction, the 11th Circuit or what's going on in Washington over the January 6th portion of what is a legally mandated report to Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, that is then supposed to be shared with Congress, as I understand it, at the conclusion of a special prosecution. And since the cases have been dismissed at his own direction, given the immunity decisions and time running out, what would stop that report on January 6th from being released by Judge Cannon, since she has only jurisdiction over the classified documents case?
Yeah, you raise a really good point, Andrea. I don't think she has any jurisdiction over it, but delay is the name of the game here. If they can just stop the clock until January 20th, then the Department of Justice, the Attorney General, will be a Trump appointee, and they can kill the whole thing and say there's no report to disclose. So that's the goal here. I think it to me seems that Judge Cannon does not have jurisdiction over this case. I know Lisa said it's not clear that she does. I think she does not. But they'd have to go to the 11th Circuit to sort that out. They're not going to sit until next week. If they can just delay that long enough, the Justice Department would be in violation of a court order to release this. Now, that's the Mar-a-Lago piece of it. I think it has been reported that there are 2 volumes of this report. So the January 6th piece of this is governed by the judge in Washington, D.C., Tanya Chutkan, who has denied this motion to dismiss the case on the basis of the special counsel regulations. Although recall that in that case, the case has been dismissed without prejudice. So she also seems to be lacking in jurisdiction. I think probably at the end of the day, the most important thing that happens here is under the special counsel regulations, the executive branch is permitted to share this with the legislative branch because courts should not be intervening there as a matter of separation of powers.
So if Merrick Garland if Merrick Garland Candelanian wants to release this January 6th report, could he do that without being in violation of a court order?
Not right now, Andrea. I could tell you, let me just clear up a few things. One, the Justice Department is taking this order very seriously. It's an order by a federal judge. They believe it's binding on them until they can get it lifted, and they're discussing and contemplating how to do that right now. It applies to both volumes of the report, not just the classified documents portion, but the January 6th portion as well. And according to the Justice Department officials I talked to, that's how they're viewing it. And there is a legitimate issue at the heart of this, and that's why the DOJ is saying it may not be able to release the classified documents portion of the report at all, no matter what Judge Cannon does, because there's a local rule in the Southern District of Florida, 77.2, which talks about releasing information pertaining to a pending criminal case outside of a trial. And DOJ lawyers looked at that. It was first raised by the lawyers for Donald Trump's co-defendants, and they said, yeah, that seems to apply here. It's a problem for us. There are pending criminal charges against 2 of Donald Trump's aides, Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira.
Can the prosecution drop the cases against those co-defendants in order to lift that, to make that rule not pertain to
well, in theory, they could do that. They're appealing. The reason they haven't done that is they're appealing what they view as a bad order by Judge Cannon, saying that the way they selected the special counsel was unconstitutional. So that's on appeal. But if Donald Trump's Justice Department comes in and drops those cases, as we believe is likely to happen, then this report will be subject to the Freedom of Information Act, and you and I could sue to try to get it. But what I was saying is that the Justice Department has concluded that they may not be able to release Jack Smith's report about the classified documents portion of this case. They do believe, though, that Judge Cannon really has no jurisdiction over the January 6th portion, which, as Barbara said, was brought in Washington, D.C. But right now they have to get some courts to say that, to countermand Judge Cannon's order, which they believe right now applies to them, and they can't even talk about this stuff, let alone release it, Andrea.
And could they release it to Congress as is mandated?
Not according to this order. They can't talk about it or release it outside of the Justice Department. And the judge made clear that this order should be served on Merrick Garland as soon as practicable. So, look, they're taking it very seriously. It's an order of a federal judge. How long it will be in place is another question, Andrea.